Two weapons I've eventually wanted to get to, but the ones featured here have some really cool and interesting interpretations that I've never seen before, so that has me really excited. Let's go ahead and talk first about the full-on weapon list. This mod's going to include a 10mm pistol, which is very customizable to include things from like the N99, which is the typical old Fallout 3 style 10mm pistol, but there's also some new stuff like the Colt 7520, which is more like a sort of version of the Beretta 93R, kind of. And there's also the Colt 6520, which is going to be sort of that Fallout 1 style 10mm pistol, but it's not going to be a revolver, which is interesting. It's got some really cool attachments. But there's more than that. That's just for the 10mm pistol. That already has basically 3 different guns inside of it. There's also the Watts 1000 pistol, which is going to be a really, really cool version of the laser pistol. It has all kinds of crazy attachments and full-on custom animations, because we've never gotten a real good look at what this thing would actually function like. And while a couple people have tried, I think that this interpretation has a really cool anim set that makes it very unique and very neat.
What if you could clean your retainer?
Brother, skip ads.
What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome to my very first Battlefield 6 gun guide. In this series, I'm going to be going gun by gun and diving deep into the stats of the weapon, far deeper than what the in-game menus show, to find out what the strengths and weaknesses are, and toward the end of each episode, I will also be providing some attachment recommendations. And for the first episode, we're going to be starting this off in the assault rifle category with the M433, which is based on the H&K 433. And keep in mind, this particular episode is going to be much longer than any episode after, because I'm going to go through step by step and explain exactly how everything works here, whereas going forward with the series, I'm just going to be blasting through this stuff a lot more quickly. And the first thing we're going to take a look at here is our raw power potential. So with the M433, our rate of fire is 830 rounds per minute, and we have 3 damage range drop-off points. Within our first range, our maximum damage range, from 0 to roughly 21.5 meters, we'll be dealing 25 damage anywhere in the body and 34 damage to the head. Now what this means is it's going to take us 4 body shots to kill, for a theoretical minimum time to kill potential at 217 milliseconds, keeping in mind this does ignore bullet travel time, and this is better than average for the assault rifle category. Now, one key side note to point out for the first episode here at least, is time to kill in a game like Call of Duty is incredibly important when selecting your gun, whereas in Battlefield it tends to be far less important than other stats like your accuracy stats. It's still important to understand if your gun is going to be killing a little bit faster or slower for its category, but I just wouldn't recommend putting as much stock into raw time to kill potential as many other
Out of everything it
Now
could have
getting
given
back
me.
to it, let's have a look at headshots. And with the base ammo type, we need 3 headshots mixed in order to reduce the number of shots to kill compared to our body shots to kill. So in order to get a 3-shot kill, all 3 of those
Not a good
bullets have
start.
to hit the head with the base
This is a
ammo
warm-up game.
for a
It's a
new
lot
time to
better.
kill
Got
at
third
145 milliseconds, which is really, really fast. However, with the hollow point ammo, this increases our headshot multiplier, and now we need 2 headshots mixed in with a body shot to reduce that down to a 3-shot kill. So I just want to be clear there as well. The ×2 doesn't mean we can kill in just 2 headshots. It means we need at least 2 headshots mixed in order to help and reduce the number of shots to kill compared to our body shots to kill. As for the third ammo type, this is synthetic tip. It's not available on the M433, but it is available on some of the guns in the game, so that will be appearing in some future episodes. So that's the basics on how to read this graphic. Now let's have a look at the second damage range, which takes place from 21.5 meters up to 75 meters. And in this range, it's now going to be a 5-shot kill to the body for a 289 millisecond time to kill, and this is very noticeably faster than the other assault rifles. And once again, we need 3 base headshots or 2 hollow point headshots mixed in if we want to cut this down to a 4-shot kill. And then finally, for our third damage range, this is anything beyond 75 meters. Now we're dealing 16.7 damage to the body and 22 to the head. So with this, it's now going to be a 6-shot kill, and once again, we need the same number of headshots mixed in as the previous ranges in order to reduce the number of shots to kill. So raw power-wise, assuming we're hitting all our shots, the M433 is actually quite powerful for the assault rifle category here. We have better time to kill values across the board. Now keep in mind, this is just looking at multiplayer without armor equipped. In RedSec, armor will come into play, and I've decided I'm going to include a brief RedSec section after I've covered all of the base multiplayer stats, since multiplayer is my primary focus, but I just don't want to leave the RedSec players totally hanging, so that's why I'm going to tag on a little section later on in the video. Now after that, let's have a look at our ranges in a bit more detail here so we can just see what this looks like relative to the other assault rifles. And I was quite surprised to find in this game that most of the assault rifles have the exact same damage range drop-off points at roughly 21.5 meters and 75 meters. So range-wise, this is a very standard assault rifle. But you can also see those individual time to kill values, and how this gun actually excels versus most of the other assault rifles when it comes to raw time to kill. Now something that goes hand in hand with our range values is our muzzle velocity. Since the lower your velocity, the harder it's going to be to hit targets at longer ranges, especially moving targets. And at first glance on the M433, it has a respectable enough muzzle velocity at 670 meters per second. This is below average for an assault rifle, but not by much, so you would think this isn't going to be all that bad at range relative to the others. However, Battlefield uses a key mechanic when it comes to velocity values, and this is the drag coefficient, which is essentially a value designed to simulate air resistance against the bullet. And the higher the value, the more velocity you're going to be losing over range. And not only that, this also impacts your bullet drop. The higher the coefficient, the more you'll see bullet drop over range. And this is something they don't show us in the stats, but I was able to reverse engineer the formula and combine that with some testing in order to calculate our drag coefficient with reasonable accuracy. There is a small margin of error here. However, I am very confident that the M433 is an outlier in the assault rifle category, and it has the worst drag coefficient out of all of these at roughly 0.0035. Whereas for reference, all of the other assault rifles have a drag coefficient of roughly 0.002. Meaning, over range, your bullet is going to slow down significantly faster with the M433, and therefore that respectable looking muzzle velocity doesn't really matter once you start stretching those ranges out. It's actually significantly worse than all of the other assault rifles as you increase your ranges. Next, let's have a look at hip fire, and this is an area where the M433 actually excels compared to most of the other assault rifles. As you can see on the left-hand side, this is what your hip fire spread will look like against an enemy 10 meters away when just standing still, not firing your gun, not moving. And you can see with the M433, as long as you're aim center mass, you're almost definitely going to be hitting that shot at 10 meters, at least with your first bullet fired. However, as you fire and or move, your hip fire spread will increase, and that's what we're looking at on the right-hand side here. So as you continue firing, obviously you're going to be less likely to be hitting your target, but the M433 is still noticeably better than most of the other assault rifles. Next, let's get into recoil as well as spread. And keep in mind, with these tests, I am using a mouse and keyboard, which gets the full amount of recoil. If you're using a controller, it actually reduces this recoil by 25%. However, the spread is the same as far as I can tell. It only reduces recoil. And taking a look at the M433 relative to the other assault rifles, it's actually got a decent amount of recoil. It's got the second highest vertical magnitude of recoil in the assault rifle category. The only one that's worse here is the TR7. And on top of that, our aim down sight spread, or bloom as a lot of people like to call it, is quite high relative to the others here as well. Not only the maximum amount when you just hold the trigger down for a long period of time, but also your initial spread seems to kick in sooner with this gun relative to the others. If you look at those first few shots fired, they're already spreading out a little bit left and right, whereas compared to most of the other assault rifles, you can see those initial shots start off really tight together and just kick upward together, and then the spread starts to apply. That's not really the case with the M433, and therefore, even with controlled burst firing, you're still going to be noticeably less accurate with this gun compared to most of the other assault rifles. Obviously, the TR7 is a big exception there. Now, after that, let's get into some of our handling stats, and unfortunately, there's nothing really interesting going on here. When it comes to our aim down sight time, by default, it's the same for all of the assault rifles at 250 milliseconds. And then sprint out times in this game at the moment appear to be bugged out or something because they're wildly inconsistent from one shot to the next. I don't know exactly what's going on here. Perhaps I'm just missing something, but I can sprint out once and get a sprint out time of around 200 milliseconds with the M433. Then I start sprinting again and I fire another shot coming out of sprints, and now it's 250 milliseconds to fire that shot. And it seems to change every single time, and this is well beyond the margin of error for my test due to frame rate. So something funky's going on there. I'll be sure to let you guys know if I figure out why it's so inconsistent, but that's the rough range of our sprint out time. You never know what you're actually going to get though. After that, our magazine capacity by default is 30 rounds, just like most of the assault rifles out there. And our base reload time is 2.38 seconds, which is pretty solid for an assault rifle. However, if you use any one of the fast magazines, it doesn't matter what the size of the magazine is, it just matters if it says fast or not. If it says fast on it, we will now be reloading in 2.11 seconds rather than 2.38. And this just leaves us with our mobility stats, and as I've covered in the past, we get the exact same movement speeds across all of the assault rifles. That applies to our walking speed, sprinting speed, crouch sprinting speed, and aim walking speed. It's all the same regardless of the assault rifle that we're using. And there we go, those are all of the important base stats for the M433 as they apply to the multiplayer side of things. However, as promised, I do have a brief section here to cover RedSec with armor plates equipped. And I just threw this graphic together right here, showing how many shots it takes to kill and our time to kill potentials against 2 armor plates in RedSec. And as we can see, in our first damage range, it's going to be an 8-shot kill against 2 plates for a time to kill of 506 milliseconds, which is better than average out of the assault rifle category, as expected here. Additionally, I was quite surprised to see that the number of headshots required mixed in with body shots is the same here when armor is mixed into the equation. We still need 3 by default or 2 if we're using the hollow point ammo. Now, obviously at this stage, you could get even better potentials out of that with our headshots. Like in the first damage range, for instance, if we manage to land 6 headshots in a row, we can get a 6-shot kill. But a situation like that is going to be incredibly rare, and as a result, I don't want to fill this graphic up with a bunch of unnecessary, overwhelming information. And that's why I just focus on the minimum number of headshots you need to mix in with body shots in order to reduce the number of shots to kill compared to just body shots. And now that we've got all of that out of the way, we can finally get into some of my preferred class setups. Keep in mind, these are just recommendations. They're class setups that work well for me. I definitely encourage you to make adjustments to better suit you and your playstyle, especially when it comes to something like the optic, for instance, since that is something that's often very heavily based on preference. And the first class setup I've got for you guys is just my balanced all-around build. This is my preferred build 99% of the time with the M433. With this, I'm using the OSA 7 sight. I've got the lighten suppressor on there, which is the one that helps with recoil, while also keeping me off the radar for anybody that's at least 15 meters away from me. We've then got the extended barrel on here to boost our muzzle velocity a bit, just to help counteract the fact that this has a very high drag coefficient, so it makes it a bit easier to use if you're stretching your ranges out. We have the canted stubby on there. This one helps quite a bit with recoil, and we can see here, taking a look at the new recoil plots, there's still going to be a lot of spread because we're not taking care of that in any way, which is unfortunate, but it at least helps us manage that recoil, especially with those initial shots fired. And that's why I do like using that on there. And then I've just got the 30-round fast mag for a slightly faster reload time and the standard ammo. And like I said, that's my go-to with the M433. Next, let's get into my hipfire build, because this gun does excel quite a bit in hipfire. And once again, we have the same optic here, the OSA 7, for any times where we are going to be aiming down sight. Then we've got the 50 milliwatt green laser combined with the flashlight. We have the CQB suppressor, which doesn't actually help our hipfire, but it's the only suppressor that doesn't hurt our hipfire, so that's why we're using that one. We also have the short barrel, that also helps our hipfire spread. And then once again, we just got the 30-round fast mag and the standard ammunition. And with this, we see a huge improvement to our hipfire spread values. And it's pretty crazy what you can do with hipfire with this gun. You can stretch your range out quite a bit more than you would normally expect with hipfire, while still maintaining a solid hit percentage on target. And there we go. That's finally going to wrap it up for my very first Battlefield gun guide. As I said, this episode is way longer than I anticipate all the future episodes will be, just because I had to go into a lot more detail. I am planning on sort of blasting through the rest of them as quickly as possible. One little note here I want to make about attachments in this game is, unfortunately, there aren't too many really interesting ways to build your gun while aiming to be as effective as possible. And as a result, I also want to set some expectations going forward with this series. You're going to end up seeing a lot of the exact same attachment combinations from one gun to the next. That's not me being lazy or anything, that's just kind of how the attachments work in this game. Of course, I will have some unique setups that really lean into the strengths of certain guns or try to make up for the weaknesses of certain guns, but for the most part, you're going to see a lot of similarities there, and I want to make sure you guys are aware of that. But outside of that, this is where we're going to wrap it up for today's video. Overall, when it comes to my thoughts on the M433, I think it's good in the areas where it's described to be good at, and that is close to medium range. So if you play to those strengths, you can absolutely find some success with this gun. However, I've got to say, at a distance, I would rather be using an SMG compared to this. That's how bad this is at longer range. And then when you really think about it, at close range, I would also rather be using an SMG. So as a result, while this gun is totally usable and you can perform well with it, I wouldn't say it's horrible. At the end of the day, I don't think it really has any particular area where it stands out above the rest and really excels. Now, of course, those are just my opinions on this, and this is where I want to hear from you guys in those comments down below. First off, how are you guys feeling about the M433? Do you guys like this gun, or maybe not? And second, since this is my first gun guide for Battlefield, I'm open to some suggestions, and I am open to making some adjustments as I move forward. So if there's something you wanted to see more of, or maybe less of in the gun guide, please let me know in those comments down below. And I'm...
What's going on, everyone? Austin John Place here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the brand new season and doing some battles in Pokemon Legends EA. Thank you to Sega and Atlas for sponsoring a part of this video. More on them later. This season is going to be for the Delphox site. I'm trying out a new team. I have this Skarmory over here, who is a Mega. I have this Feraligatr over here, who is a Mega. This is actually my starter. And I have this Clefable over here, who is an Alpha Shiny. And I think having a defensive fairy type would be helpful with the Pokemon that we're going to be facing this season. And I have no idea how it's going to go, so let's just go for it. Okay, first thing, titles. ZA Battle Club Rookie, that means that we made it to rank A only one time. Pokemon Professor, because we completed the Pokedex, and Mabel Enabler, because we did all of Mabel's side quests. I want people to know how many things I've done. These are my achievements, get off of me. And we are starting at rank Z, right from the bottom. Very important to make sure you have a super cool card, otherwise no one's going to take you seriously. Okay, we have Excadrill in front of us, Charizard over here.
Alright, now this one right here, this is going to throw us over to a little bit of a leak that happened a long time ago that I don't think we ever actually took a look at or even really talked about. So if you didn't know, Jeff, being like the lead designer of Minecraft or whatever, he's got a couple of different guiding principles and rules for the developers to follow when adding new content into the game, like the dude behind me. Now this book is an internal book. It was never publicly released. According to the Jebasaurus, this book is used mainly for onboarding over at Mojang, and though it was written way back in 2018, which I think puts it smack dab in the Update Aquatic B update era of the game, well, this internal book on game design and everything like that is actually still used, but some of it has changed. He wrote it in 2018, and since then, they've learned new things, but it's a great triumph. And then Cameron hits us with the final page.
How'd that work out for you, buddy?
Is it official canon, or is it Jev's headcanon? Our final page concerning Enderman. Now, unfortunately here, it looks like I have a missing page, because I can see 46 and never mind. The Enderman. We never want to explain the Enderman to our players. They are the silent observers. Their mysterious behavior of moving blocks should remain a mystery. Notch added the Enderman as a nod to the Slenderman, which, side note, kind of consumed my life and my little brother's life for like 2 years. But they have since then grown on and become a core part of Minecraft's lore. This well-kept secret is that they are trying to bring about the collapse of all dimensions by displacing blocks that are key to the world's existence. They do this one at a time, hilariously slow, but they have eternity on their side. That's a lore drop. That's a little juicy if I ever thought of one. But according to Jeff, Lee says, let's consider this as his personal headcanon. However, people have been posting time lapses of what happens to your world if you do nothing for a long time. It is slowly taken apart. Now, this book is actually kind of interesting. I don't know if you guys would ever want me to maybe do a video taking a look at all of it, but just let me know down below or something if you'd like me to do that, because there's a lot there. Ah, yes, the Zords, the zombie horse right here. Nice. So famously, Minecraft's new update, it has a little bit of inconsistency when it comes to our brand new mods. For one, the zombie horse, what do you call it? Dude, we were literally just talking about this. I don't know how I blanked so hard. Some of our undead things in the game definitely burn. Meanwhile, other undead things definitely do not burn. Some of them, logically, it might make sense that they don't burn. Other ones, why in the heck in the world doesn't it burn? This inconsistency was pointed out to Jeb over on Blue Sky, and he actually got back to it. Usually, the developers will say undead with hats do not burn, but I suppose all rules will have some exceptions. I know rules have an exception. That's a little bit of a nod to a discussion that we'll talk about very soon. But yeah, the zombie horse burns, meanwhile the skeleton horse does not. It's a little bit odd. Either way, based off of this reply, unless something changes last second, looks like this is how it's going to stay for the update. On the topic of game performance, as if it wasn't clear already, Jeb reveals that game performance is a big priority for the team. This response came in response to a question all about adding optimization features from mods into the game. So like maybe, for example, Optify and Zoom, can the devs just straight up add that into the game? And he's not quite sure, so he prefers not to comment, but performance is big. Oh man, and now the creeper. Haha, get it? In a relatively recent video that was posted on the official Minecraft YouTube channel, we had Kojo Max and Jeb talking about their thought processes, what the devs actually think when they are considering or not considering adding something new to the game. This one here, we talked about it before in this video, so check that out next if you missed it. But it might have, long story short, raised a little bit of controversy around the creeper. You see, in that video there, because of the creeper's whole blowing up, destroying things type of thing, Jeb said that if it was added in 2025, well, no, it probably wouldn't be. Because of some of the modern game design principles, the creeper, something like it, would probably not make it into the game nowadays. Now, this lit a lot of people on fire, including people who haven't touched the game in a decade. But thanks to the man himself, we get a little bit more information over on Blue Sky. Jeb says that he's heard that people are engaged in the creeper topic from the Minecraft YouTube series. Just for your information, my comments in that segment are from an excerpt from a longer rationale around our creative guidelines in game design. It's true that if we were designing the creeper today, well, we would probably put guardrails around its destructive behavior. Maybe limits to where it can spawn and when. Maybe it would be triggered by something specific the player is doing. In any case, the creeper is iconic, and it's one of the few monsters that is actually scary. So Jeb kind of kicks it all off by acknowledging that, yeah, the creeper is pretty great, and then made it a little bit more clear as to some of the limitations the creeper would potentially have nowadays if it was considered to be added to the game. In all honesty, the very first thing that came to my mind here when reading this, well, it was a mod, something kind of like the creek. If you think about it a little bit here, the creaking kind of has this exact design principle, where it's a dangerous mob that's very bad. Sure, he doesn't really explode, but it is definitely limited by the biome. Like, can you imagine a mob that is completely invincible, basically, but just spawning all over your entire world, maybe every single tree in the entire game? Yeah, that would be a little bit dangerous, so the devs went ahead and created a limitation for it. A single biome. A little bit more explanation with the context of some of Jeb's comments. I don't know. I know you guys don't want mobs to grief, but I actually think the creeper is great just the way it is. Yes, I agree. The creeper is genuinely scary because if you're not dealing with it, it's going to set you back. The point that Jeb was trying to make is that if you didn't already have a creeper existing, it would be pretty hard for them to add it into the game nowadays. The community backlash would be crazy. Honestly, right there, let him cook. He's 100% correct. Jeb also wanted to make it clear that in that initial video, again, it only used a small clip from a longer section of Jeb talking, and his point was that, again, in today's Minecraft world, a mob like the creeper would definitely need some special conditions. He does still love the creeper. That clarification from Jeb is honestly kind of beautiful. I had a feeling that he was getting a little bit misconstrued by some of the tourists from time to time. Definitely a conversation for another time, but this is the downside of the Minecraft community being, well, just such a massive community, and so many people hopping in and out of the Minecraft world. Some of the comments can definitely easily get misconstrued, and some of the newer features that are kind of similar in a way, well, they can definitely go almost completely unnoticed and forgotten. Oh, and then we have another developer chiming in and saying, hey,
all right,
maybe the Phantom
short
should
stream today, I
explode too.
guess.
Great idea.
Cool,
yes.
cool.